What an honor to welcome you all to Rideau Hall, the home of the people of Canada, for this celebration of the very best in Canadian journalism. Le prix Michener est décerné à une organisation médiatique pour son apport considérable au bien collectif par l'entremise de la presse écrite ou électronique. Les candidats de cette année ont poursuivi la justice de diverses manières. In matters related to health and social policy, good government, corporate social responsibility, free and fair elections, and worker safety, you have provoked public discussion and inspired positive change. That this award goes to a news organization rather than an individual reflects the fact that the best journalism is rarely the product of an individual. Rather, a great deal of teamwork and collaboration is involved in producing news of this depth and impact. I'm also delighted to present the Michener-Deacon Fellowships today. These fellowships support innovative projects in investigative journalism and journalism education, and I want to commend their recipients and wish them the very best. To the finalists and winners of this year's Michener Award, I offer my congratulations, and on behalf of all Canadians, thank you for your great work. Canada is a better place as a result.
We'll begin the presentations this evening by awarding the Michener-Deacon Fellowships. The Foundation is pleased that last year a second fellowship was added to support journalism education. This was made possible through the generosity of the BMO Financial Group, which has provided support for the Michener-Deacon Fellowship for Investigative Reporting. Because of this generosity, a new fellowship was added to enable a senior journalist to spend 4 months in residence at one of Canada's journalism schools. The fellowship is supported by the Foundation and the family of the late Paul S. Deacon. The judges have awarded the Fellowship for Journalism Education to CBC radio journalist Julie Ireton. Ms. Ireton is also a past winner of the Michener-Deacon Fellowship for Investigative Journalism. Her plan is to use the fellowship to develop a workshop on entrepreneurial journalism. This would eventually link Carleton University's Sprott School of Business with the university's School of Journalism.
Looks like I'm going back to school again, but what an inspiring opportunity. I'd like to thank the Foundation for this honor and for recognizing the need for journalism education, research, and mentorship. Everyone in this room knows that Canadian newsrooms are shrinking and changing drastically. And online technology means journalism is changing. So along with the fundamentals, aspiring reporters need to be innovators to learn how to take risks, maybe create their own ventures, or simply just survive in this ever-evolving industry. So this fall, I'll be heading back to Carleton University to delve into the growing field of entrepreneurial journalism, this idea of journalists themselves being the entrepreneurs. I'd like to thank Chris Waddell from the School of Journalism, along with Tony Belletti at the Sprott School of Business for both supporting my project. And thanks to CBC for giving me the time off to pursue it.
The judges have awarded this year's Fellowship for Investigative Reporting to photojournalist Roger Lemoyne. Mr. Lemoyne has won national and international awards for his photo documentaries of human conflict and turmoil in Kosovo, Africa, Asia, and South America. His work has appeared in many publications, including Perry Match, Time, Maclean's, and the Globe and Mail. His project as a fellowship winner will be an investigation in words and photos of the operations of Canadian mining companies in other countries, including their environmental impact and their civic conduct.
In the 1990s and early 2000s, I worked regularly in areas of conflict and insecurity. And in these places, journalists often band together to travel. So arriving by car on a road, a checkpoint, manned by the Taliban or some other dodgy group, people would turn around, look at me and say, "You got to talk to them, you're Canadian." So at that time, we all had that image of Canada as the peacekeeper, the champion of human rights, the leading global citizen. But over the last decade, we've seen more and more reports of Canadian mining companies being involved in a wide range of conflicts with communities in developing countries. In fact, in a 2009 report, the Canadian Centre for the Study of Resource Conflict states that Canada has more extraction companies embroiled in community conflicts and alleged unethical behavior than any other country in the world. So on one hand, we have a multi-billion-dollar extraction industry bringing jobs, development money and corporate social responsibility projects to these countries. But on the other, we have NGOs and watchdog organizations, journalists even, reporting that there's an inequity in the relationship and between the Canadian companies and the people who live on or near the land that they're mining. 20 years ago, I was drawn to photography and journalism by my curiosity more than anything else. I wanted to know what drives people to start conflicts and to take up weapons against each other. What we do with our international aid in disasters, how we help people, if we can help them at all. And who are these people in distant places, different cultures, but with whom we share this shrinking planet? And I think these same questions will be coming up throughout this project on Canadian mining companies and their activities in developing countries. So I'm deeply grateful to the foundation for this opportunity to follow my curiosity once again and explore this issue.
In a few minutes, we'll honor one winner of the Michener Award. This year, we received 30 excellent entries from newspapers and broadcasters across Canada, 5 more than last year. The 5-person panel of judges for the award is independent of the Michener Foundation Board. And it's now my pleasure to introduce the finalists for the Michener Award. The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation and Société Radio-Canada's Enquête. Fatal Deception, the name of the series, revealed links between asbestos industry funding and research at McGill University.
Fatal Deception is a documentary about decades of junk science funded by the asbestos industry, the federal government, and the Quebec government. Science that was used to deceive the general public and asbestos workers about the dangers of this toxic substance. The science was often generated by one of our most cherished institutes of higher learning, McGill University in Montreal. After the broadcast of our documentary, there was finally a change of course, first by the Marois government in Quebec and then by the Harper government in Ottawa.
In the lead up to the 2012 municipal election, the investigation by The Coast, an independent alternate weekly newspaper, revealed that Halifax's popular 3-term mayor had taken more than $160,000 from an estate of which he was the executor. A Trust Betrayed revealed how more than 7 years after the death of Mary Thibault, her heirs were still waiting for Peter Kelly to disburse hundreds of thousands of dollars. Some charities didn't even know they had been named in her will.
I wrote a short article in The Coast about the estate in March of that year, but it went nowhere. No other media outlet picked up the story, and the public seemed disinterested. But the unanswered questions nagged at me. I couldn't let the story go. Over the next 11 months, I attempted to contact each of the heirs. I talked with people who knew Mrs. Thibault when she was alive. I scoured public records both here in Canada and in 2 U.S. states where Mrs. Thibault wintered. I interviewed probate lawyers and learned more about probate law than any sane person should ever have to. I shook every tree I could find, hoping that something would fall out.
La presse.
Il y a 2 ans, les Québécois ont découvert qu'une jeune mère de famille était morte après s'être laissée enfermer dans une boîte par un gourou. Comment la quête de cette jeune femme a-t-elle pu la conduire à la mort et quelle est l'ampleur du danger pour les autres Canadiens qui tombent entre les griffes de manipulateurs du genre? Pour répondre à ces questions, nous avons infiltré le milieu de la guérison miracle avec une caméra cachée. Au fil des semaines, nous avons filmé des dizaines de charlatans qui prétendaient tout guérir, de la dépression au cancer, avec des méthodes et des appareils complètement farfelus. Certains avaient pénétré les écoles et les hôpitaux, d'autres avaient fondé une secte. Les plus choquants s'en prenaient surtout aux enfants malades. Depuis des années, les profiteurs avaient le champ libre. Moins d'1 sur 10 étaient poursuivis, et ceux qui l'étaient payaient une amende ridicule et recommençaient aussitôt à faire des profits. Plusieurs allaient jusqu'à remettre des reçus à leurs clients pour qu'ils réclament le remboursement des traitements bidons aux compagnies d'assurance et au ministère du Revenu. La publication de notre dossier a changé plusieurs choses. Une secte des Laurentides a fermé ses portes après 20 ans d'activité. L'Ordre des psychologues et le Collège des médecins ont déclenché plusieurs enquêtes et ont surtout été inondés de nouvelles plaintes. Le nombre de plaintes a doublé cette année-là. Le Collège des médecins a aussi fait des pressions auprès du ministre de la Justice pour qu'on soit plus sévère à l'avenir. Aujourd'hui, je tiens à remercier mes coéquipiers, Francis Veil et Isabelle Dubé, pour leur précieuse expertise. Je tiens surtout à saluer les dizaines de victimes qui nous ont fait confiance en acceptant de briser le silence pour la première fois. Certaines avaient abouti à l'hôpital psychiatrique, d'autres avaient fait faillite, avaient renié leur famille, avaient subi des agressions sexuelles ou vu mourir un proche. Et merci aussi à notre patron Mario Girard qui a eu le flair de nous lancer sur cette piste et à notre patronne Katia Gagnon pour ses précieux conseils et qui nous a laissé tout le temps requis pour compléter notre enquête. Merci à vous tous pour votre écoute. Thank you.
The Toronto Star. Heartbreaking stories of people with autism, homeless, or in jail turn the spotlight on the failure of Ontario's health and social policies to address the changes faced at different stages of life by those with autism. The comprehensive series looked at all facets of the issue, from groundbreaking scientific research to the severe shortage of services and funding, particularly for young adults.
While the implications for health, education, and social service and delivery run deep and wide, there has been little meaningful Canadian journalism on the issue. Editors Lynn McCauley and Alison Uncles assigned a team of 2 photographers and 6 reporters to address that gap. Its impact was immediate and profound. In November, Ontario Ombudsman Andre Marin launched an investigation into gaps in services faced by adults with autism and other developmental disabilities, crediting the Star for bringing the issue to the public's attention. In December, the province appointed a blue ribbon panel to review autism policies and programs in the province. And in January, the Auditor General launched an investigation into funding of autism services for children in the province.
Catastrophic explosions that killed 4 people and injured another 42 workers at 2 northern BC sawmills led the Vancouver Sun to investigate gaps in public safety concerning the risk of wood dust explosions.
We wanted to answer why provincial safety authorities and industry were not aware of the explosive potential of wood dust, particularly given that mills were sawing dead and dried out timber from a pine beetle epidemic going back a decade. Using Freedom of Information requests, we created databases compiled from thousands of pages of safety documents. It is not often that you get a call from a pair of cabinet ministers telling you that they will be reacting to your stories and safety will be improved. In one of the latest developments, WorkSafe BC announced it has completed its investigation. It's going to hand its files over to Crown Counsel for possible charges that could include rare jail time.
Post-media news and the Ottawa Citizen. The detailed and sustained reporting exposed the use of robocalls to mislead and harass voters in the 2011 federal election campaign. After an election day incident in Guelph in which a fraudulent robocall about a polling station change went to 6,738 homes, Postmedia and the Ottawa Citizen compiled a database of all reported incidents in Canada. A pattern emerged. The calls seemed to target opposition voters in ridings across the country. The investigation shed light on how technology can subvert our most fundamental democratic value, the right to vote in a fairly run election. Just before we announce the winner here, I think maybe we should recognize all of the investigative journalism that goes on in Canada every day now, because there were 30 great entries this year, and this is at a time when the business models of the traditional news media are being challenged. And it's very encouraging that some of Canada's largest news organizations and small ones like the Coast are finding the resources to try and serve the public interest as best they can. I'd ask that we have a round of applause for all of them. Decision of the judges as the winner of this year's Michener Award is Post-Media News and the Ottawa Citizen.
Your Excellencies, Madam Chief Justice, parliamentarians, distinguished guests, and colleagues. To be standing here accepting this award for the winning work of reporters Glenn McGregor and Stephen Marr implies there were those whose work was less important, less vital, or not quite enough. And that's simply not the case. Incredible work being done by journalists in this room under increasingly difficult challenges for our industry, increasingly difficult challenges in access to information, And when free speech, even free speech, shockingly in this country is not a given, speaks to the caliber of each entry. The work done on the robocalls affair by Glenn and Stephen was exceptional reporting. Old-fashioned shoe leather, modern-era data mining, and tried-and-true building of trusted sources. Their work revealed a dangerous pattern of misdirecting voters with the only possible motivation but to affect who would represent Canadians in Parliament. And this is Canada we're talking about. This was a story of Canadian democracy at risk. Those were the stakes, and that is not hyperbole. Glenn and Stephen and their editors, Andrew Potter and Tina Spencer, deserve to be recognized for their doggedness, their fearlessness, and their conviction that this story mattered. The Michener Awards represent the highest level of public service journalism in Canada, and these reporters, in their pursuit of this story, deserve the honor. On behalf of the Ottawa Citizen and Post Media, thank you very much for recognizing them.